Hello everyone, and welcome back to OWL by the Numbers, your one-stop spot for all things fantasy Overwatch League. I am your host, Emily Drunk, and tonight on episode 16, we'll be taking a look at the trade between the LA Valiant and the Florida Mayhem, share our thoughts on the rumored 222 changes that are coming to Overwatch League, who might resurface in Overwatch League come Stage 3, and so much more. But before we can jump into the agenda for tonight and introduce you to my co-hosts, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who is hanging out with us tonight on Twitch for our live show, and of course thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So as you can tell, we have all hands on deck tonight. We are hot off the heels of the Stage 2 playoffs, with the San Francisco Shock coming out on top with the title over the Vancouver Titans in, the Stage 1 final rematch. We're a day out from the Overwatch League All-Stars event from starting, and we got some major plans in the works to clue you in on towards the end of the show, because we got a couple of panels coming up that we're going to be talking about as well. But looking back at the week that was, what did everyone think about the Stage 2 playoffs? Now, we had a couple of upsets, and at the end of the day, it pretty much solidifies the fact that we have the Shock and the Titans, and then literally the rest of the league.
What upset are you talking about?
The Spark over the Spitfire.
Oh, I guess I don't call that an upset because I called it. My bad.
Oh, humble brag. Humble brag right there.
Weird flex, bro. Weird flex.
Yeah, but I don't remember you saying that, that they would get full held 3 times in a row.
I also remember you calling the Gladiators being New York, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, so
I did, yeah.
It evens
definitely. And dude, the Gladiators got destroyed, and so did Fuel. It was
a lot of people got destroyed.
yeah,
everyone got
the
destroyed.
stage finals have been literal garbage, except for the final match in the last 2. So big shout out and thanks to the Titans and the Shock for giving us something good to watch.
I mean, even the finals from this stage, the Titans put up a fight, but you could tell, honestly, from even watching start of match 1, you could tell that Shock was playing out of their minds compared to the Titans. And if you just watch the gameplay, you're just like, okay, Titans are going to make this close, but this is Shock's game to lose.
Yeah, it was the first time I saw the Titans look scared.
It was... Yeah. A lot of it was ult efficiency, too. The Titans and the Shock are usually the 2 best teams, and the Titans did see a little bit of fall-off in regards to their ult efficiency in that series in particular, as compared to, what we traditionally see from them, both in, the group stages as well as the playoffs.
Yeah, and the Shock were the first team, in my mind, to truly take advantage of Bumper. Crazy Bumper. They really took advantage of punishing him.
Well, they weren't punishing him. They were punishing the rest of the team as he was going in deep.
But I mean, by punishing Bumper, they're punishing Bumper by ignoring him. It's one of those things. A smart team, you realize, yes, you can either punish Bumper for charging in early or getting out of position and just kill Bumper. But the Titans are one of the best teams when it comes to, or is the best team.
I don't
team
think you're
fights
right
when
there.
They lose their main tank first.
I think the big difference was Shock's ability to rotate and draw fights out when they were losing on the ult economy. I think, if you watch all of those matches, Shock's rotations were amazing. Anytime the Titans tried to get ground on them, they would just rotate completely around, lots of times being on the wrong side of the map, the side that the Titans should actually be on. The Shock's rotations were out of this world.
Doesn't hurt getting a grab in 22 seconds.
Definitely doesn't hurt. Yeah, the damage that Sinatra does is pretty dang good.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Tone and I have talked about this. The ult usage was from both Zaryas was kind of crap.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of that was prediction grabs, too, though.
But if you're getting a grab in under a minute, who gives 2 shits?
And
honestly. Like,
Yeah, and I mean, and like Super got all mad at somebody. I forget who. Somebody said something on the broadcast, maybe Doa or something. And he's like, he just shattered nothing. And Super came back and explained that he was like predicting them coming in, and he just was wrong. Like, but I mean, that's the way that you get big shatters as Ryan. You don't see the perfect opportunity. Say, I'm gonna shatter, guys. No, like it's a very situational thing. You're reading the other Ryan, and you're literally just guessing where they're going to be in a second point. 1.25 seconds.
my favorite was Sim and Sue throwing the grab underneath King's Row.
Yeah, that was
through
feels
the
bad.
little gap. Yeah, that was such a
Like,
bummer.
that's the ultimate feels bad moment.
Oh, yeah. I always even forget that hole is even there.
Because like you don't fall down
yeah,
really.
I've never fallen down it. I don't even know if you can, but like I've fallen off the other side many times.
I mean, what's a bigger feels bad, that or putting serial killers on the screen?
That's a feels
Oh.
bad for the community. Like that was just dastardly and disgusting.
Oh my god! And
I
like,
mean,
the thing is
that's
the person,
gonna hurt us because we're not gonna get to see the cool tweets and the cool.
the person
pictures.
who put it up. I mean, honestly, who knows what these people look like? No one.
Yeah,
Like,
no
you
one,
don't know
and
who they
especially
look
in
like.
the U.S., we have no clue who your serial killers were across, like overseas.
Yeah. And then they're just like, okay, let's put this. They have a nice picture of what looks like a loving couple from the 70s. Boom,
Yeah,
boom,
that was
boom.
just a bummer.
Serial
It
killers.
just, yeah, it just might. Well, actually, Ed, you should explain exactly what happened so that our listeners.
So somebody tweeted out because they were doing OW, the hashtag OW mom and all that stuff, and they're showing tweets, showing pictures of moms and stuff like that. And somebody sent out a tweet, and I forgot what it said, but it had a picture of a husband-wife serial killer.
It was something like, "Oh, I have like Happy
My
Mother's Day. Like,
mom
miss my mom and dad. I
can't
haven't seen
be
them in a
here."
while, but
Yeah,
I want to see
yeah,
them soon."
My mom unfortunately can't be here, but I know if they were here or something like that.
Yeah,
And it was a picture of Fred and Rosemary West, which is like from an old like from the 70s.
yeah, like
Yeah, like how the heck is the
no one's
algorithm
gonna know
gonna know
that.
that?
Well, people were. I remember again. The great Reddit hive mind was like, "Oh, why don't they just reverse image search every single photo that comes up?" And it's like, because they don't have the time to.
Yeah,
like,
that's
some
idiotic.
Stupid cesspool. I'm sorry. If
What
you
if-
are a constant Redditor commenter, attack me if you want. You are part of the problem, not part of the solution.
I'm trying to be,
I
but
Or,
it's
wait,
hard.
are you trying
It's
to be
hard
part
to
of the
Reddit.
problem or the
I
solution?
just started today. Starting
will-
today, I'm hitting Reddit.
I will say after this playoff series, Labosco and I were talking about this. It definitely feels like Shock in Vancouver, Gap, New York, Gap. Everyone else.
It's exactly what we talked about with Frito and Al recap last night. There's two S tier teams, one A team, a handful of B teams, and then everybody else.
Now, outside of that, like one of the other key things that I noticed, at least in regards to ultimate usage, both of them are Reinhardt related. So, for a lot of the Reinhardts, and Super was doing this a lot more than Bumper was, but we would see him like drop Earth Shatter like around corners where he didn't always have full line of sight when he was dropping it. So you'd really only see like two of the ripple effects hitting the ground. And then outside of that, we also saw, rather than going for a lot of Grav Bomb combinations, they were going for the Shatter and the Diva Bomb. So, the Reinhardt would look to block the Diva Bomb, and then the enemy Reinhardt would come in and just drop a fat Shatter at that point, and that was setting up a lot of the other big plays as well.
There was a lot of counter shatters too that I didn't really get. Like, Super was able to shatter Bumper and the team while in Grav a few different times. The one I remember specifically is Blizzard World, and maybe Bumper's shield was out of juice, but I swore he had just put it up, and then boom, they get shattered. It's like, Bumper, your entire team's there. Just let them do the damage and don't get your team shattered. It was really weird.
Well, and people griped about, of course, like prediction shatters that didn't hit, but when they did hit, they were awesome. And
Well, I
we'd
mean,
see,
that's one of the only ways to get Shatters off in like the pro scene. If you're going up against a really good Rhine, you're going to have to do that if you want to get good that or flank majorly, which doesn't make sense as Rhine in the GOATS meta.
And more times than not, you get punished for that as well.
Mm.
Well, jumping into, some of the things that did happen outside of the playoffs, we did see a little bit of a trade going on between the LA Valiant and the Florida Mayhem, which is a pretty notable trade, seeing how many moving parts there have been in that regard. So, Ramses, who went where in this trade between the Valiant and the Mayhem?
All right, so this involved the Valiant getting 3 players at the price of 1. So the Valiant traded Florida Fate, of course, their original main tank going back to Immortals. Someone we saw who had a little bit of difficulty with the GOATS meta, whether that or not that was 100% his fault could be up for discussion. So the Valiant trading Fate to Florida at main tank, and then the Valiant receiving Fact Fiction, who was the main tank for Florida's Academy team, as well as Shax, who is a hit scan DPS for their Academy team, and everybody's favorite Diva bench player, McGravy, who was the flex tank for Florida a couple weeks ago before this whole all-Korean roster thing started happening. And I've heard a bunch of different back and forth as far as who actually benefits from this trade, with the point being that I personally believe both teams benefit. Florida get an immediate upgrade at main tank. Valiant get the Western main tank they wanted, and they get a pretty good Western main tank. I know people sleep on Fact Fiction because he wasn't that good for the Outlaws last year, but if we can look at how the Outlaws have been playing since he got in and afterwards, I don't think it's 100% on him.
I don't know that they really gave Fact Fiction a good chance last year. Like he came in and he did an interview with Chan Man V before moving to LA. And he was under the impression that him and Muma were going to share time, and that never happened.
Well, they'd have him play Volskaya, and then they have him play Volskaya, him and Clockwork, and then they'd lose Volskaya, and then something with Fact Fiction, it's his fault. I know there was a tweet that Jake sent out when he went to the Academy team that was like, Fact Fiction playing in contenders is like the equivalent of an NBA player playing basketball with a bunch of middle schoolers. I mean, you go.
I was just gonna say, I honestly, that's how I felt when Bishu joined Gladiators Legion temporarily.
Yeah. I mean, people
Agreed.
forget Fact Fiction is the starting main tank for the U.S. World Cup team in 2017. He was
That's not saying much.
I understand, but he was at least worthy enough at one point to be in that position.
That's why he went on the Outlaws.
Point taken.
Well, he went on the Outlaws probably because just the bad scouting, especially in season 1 of the Overwatch League. And the scouting consisted of, so the guys on our team. So who's your good friend? Here, let's bring your good friend in here. Let's just do that.
Player? Are they Western? Okay. Oh, cool. All right.
To me on this trade, it's the biggest person traded is not actually Fate or Fact Fiction.
McGravy.
No, it's Shax. I honestly think
I just don't know much about him. I've heard a lot of good things. I just don't know
he's
much
a good Tracer,
specifically.
Widow, type player.
Which I already have 2 of.
True, but you could always use. I mean, if any team could use an upgrade, the Valiant could use upgrades.
The Valiant definitely needed another DPS.
I mean, if you can go with Shax and Agilities as your 2 main DPS, and you're truly going for that full Western. I mean, I know they have KSF, but I still don't fully believe in KSF.
And I don't believe in Kariv either.
Yeah, so if you're going full Western with the Valiant, Shax is a great addition as a hit scan DPS. To pair with, especially if they're going, if the rumors are true and they're going to go 2-2-2, you get, you get a main tank. Yes, you get a downgrade at main tank. Fact Fiction, I don't believe is as good as Fate, but he probably fits into this team better. And then you get Shax, who's probably going to be better than I would assume Bunny as one of the other DPS players.
Ball.
Yeah, a lot of people forget Bunny's even on the Valiant because he hasn't played.
Every time you say Bunny, I just have to say ball.
So I would think Shax and Agilities will be the DPS duo with the Valiant, and then I think they keep Izayaki as the only non.
Yeah, you have to keep like
it's
someone
hard to-
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone
I don't know.
asking if Kareem would take over, and that just feels crazy to me. Like
don't know if
Izayaki has been amazing.
He's been a monster stat-wise. He gets a bunch of eliminations, but at least to my eye test, it feels like the team's a little bit more comfortable when Kareev is actually playing flex support.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Like, the calling's a little bit better. Like, when they've been winning, they've had Kareev in at flex support, which I know because
does have better English. That is
Because-
definitely true.
which
But
I know
you care
because I
about
started
fantasy
Izayaki.
stats, not actual win.
Oh, I know, which is a bummer for Izayaki owners because then you get a big fat 0 where you got 180 points every week before.
So
I do think.
outside of that, though, like I still feel bad for McGravy because he's still gonna get permabenched at this point, probably, since they do have space. But
You're not starting.
It is interesting though, because like it does put Valiant in a position where they do have a couple of players on this roster that have really good value in regards to just being trade bait. So who knows if they're gonna try to go for additional Western players, but they are kind of shying away from that mixed roster with the moves that they have been making here as of late.
You got to think too, like Fate gets a major upgrade if we do go to a 2-2-2 because it'll be a lot of Monkey and a lot of Orisa. I don't know about his Orisa, but I definitely know his Monkey is better than his Reinhardt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like the Fate becomes like the best tank and arguably the best player, him and Saya play on a crappy team. So for him going to the Mayhem, yes, he's definitely an upgrade over what they have. It's just a matter of can they get an off tank that can support him? Because Zephyr is not an off tank that is worth a damn. Really, like Zephyr is just not good.
But he's so good in scrims, Ed. He's so good in scrims.
Scrimbucks don't count. They don't count. Sorry, but I mean,
where do you spend Scrimbucks, Ed?
I don't know. They probably go to the Houston Outlaws.
Hey, Totem, what's the conversion ratio for Blizzard Bucks and Scrim Bucks?
Oh man, that's a rough one.
That's what they pay China contenders with.
I guess it really depends on how much SR you boost.
No, but I mean, the thing is, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think the Mayhem are not done. I don't really think that's going out on a limb.
Well, we know they're not done because they did make another sign.
They did, but I think they're going to go out and get another off tank. And honestly, they need to look at Fusion Uni. Or anywhere in Korea. You're building an all-Korean team. There's plenty of Korean players out there for you to look at off tank, and Zephyr just needs to be a bench player at this point.
Going back to the Valiant though, who starts at main tank?
Fact.
You think Fact or do you think Cookie?
Fact.
I would say between the two.
Fact fiction.
I think you're right too. I was just curious.
And any of you Reddit cesspool fans out there, McGravy is not ever gonna start over space.
We gave Ed a shovel and he's just digging a hole. Jeez.
Like, I'm sorry, but like all of you, like, oh, does this mean the end of space? No, it does not.
The only super like 0.5% chance I could see them starting McGravy would be for one map, and it would be to put him on the Sombra over space. That's the only situation.
You're talking about putting him in there to play non-off.
Oh, I agree.
Which if it turns out to be 2-2-2, useless.
Oh, I agree. I'm not saying like it's like what I would think they should do. I'm just saying that's something they could do. I will say, like, blow for blow, if this was just trading fact fiction for Fate, what do we think? Even trade? Do we think, as far as utility derived by both teams, do both teams get the same amount of benefit?
Well, I feel like it still addresses the immediate need for both teams because, you know, the Valiant want to go in one direction, and then Swan has definitely been one of the biggest contributors of some of the woes that the Mayhem have been facing. But if we're talking just overall skill level, I do still would favor like the trade aspect in regards to Fate going to the Mayhem.
Mm-hmm. I still feel bad. I was talking with Abasco that like Fate's somebody who just kind of got bad circumstances with the Valiant. You watched, they didn't really know what they were doing with Kariv on Zarya, and then I love Izayaki, but having his timing off on the Zen to where Fate doesn't know, do I push hard, do I stay back, am I aggressive, am I cautious, and then he gets picked.
So, to be fair though, those first couple weeks, Fate shattered more walls than Eddie Reinhardt in Overwatch.
It was rough.
I mean, it was weird. It was really weird.
Little known fact, the walls don't fall down if you shatter them.
Unless you're in Game of Thrones.
Can somebody get that message to Jonas, please, as well? Because
okay, let's not even talk about the Justice. They need a complete gut job.
Justice is looking better.
On their tank line. They need a complete gut job on their tank line.
Yeah, well, but...
Like, Bob, me and you could do better.
Well,
Mr. 5K over here saying that he can do
this. Me and my 5,000 DPI mouse.
Hey.
Is Janus the main tank?
Yeah.
Giannis, yeah.
Okay.
Giannis, that's correct, yes.
It's Janus.
So, Giannis, Janus, Janet, whatever you want to call him.
Damn it, Janet.
Has looked better
Giannis.
with Arc and Sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Goes from F- to F?
Well, he's an aggro tank, and he needs a team that's going to be aggro with him, or they do need to make a change. But I think he can be good if you just let him bumperfy.
I mean, he did bumperfy for New York. He bumperfied for New York last year for 2 out of 5 maps where they would switch him back in for mono to solo carry them back into a win.
They would just throw like putting him into New York strategy was just a straight throw. Mm-hmm. It's like saying like New York's like we're gonna put in Fraggy. It just wouldn't happen. It'd be crazy, and New York would play crappy with Bumper too.
Speaking of Mono unfortunately playing out of his mind in that game with the Vancouver Titans, only for the rest of the team just to not back it up.
Yeah.
It's like
there were so many things too.
Just aren't that good at healing. I don't know. It's weird like that.
Yeah, Mono really played out of his mind, and I felt really bad for Nene too, because there were so many times when he was trying to target Slime, and he'd get Slime down to like sub 20 health, and then he would have to like reload, or Slime would be able to escape via wall right in, and then there was that moment on Garden too when he escapes with like 8 health, strolls back in, and just finishes off Jonek, and it's just one of those things that makes you really appreciate some of the main support play that isn't necessarily always one of the focus targets in the broadcast perspective.
Well, and you have to. Sorry,
I was just gonna say. Speaking of Jonak, how weird is it that we're consistently getting critique of Jonak's trans usage now?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, because now it didn't matter in dive. He would use it to save himself, and in dive, you're not gonna get much value out of it, but in the GOATS meta, the biggest healer on the team, as far as stats, is Zen, because of that trans healing, and because you're healing 5 people, and so that's why everybody's looking at it now. But I forgot what I was gonna. Something else that lots of people don't pay attention to. What makes Ryan's great is Brig. I mean, like I just know this from my team. Like a good Brig makes Ryan scary as heck, because that armor pack is huge, and if that's used wrong, then Ryan looks way less potent.
Well, in that case, there'd be a bunch of teams that are suffering from poor Brig play. I mean, the Valiant.
I'd say over half of the
Gladiators
are suffering from bad Brig play because they don't want to play Brig.
Yeah, too many Brig bots.
Yeah, they're DPS. They didn't get into league to play support. They don't have the support mindset. Brig is never going to be flashy to the naked eye, and they don't like that. Brig is a character that makes other heroes look good.
Yeah, and if you need any proof of that, just look at a player like EQO, who was really like an MVP last year, and then this year he's an afterthought.
Yeah, it's a bummer too.
And then you look at the the big players who actually thrive at accepting that, healer support role, and the top two Brigs probably in my mind are Haskell and Rascal, the Ulls of the Overwatch League, and it's weird how both of them are in the championship game. Like, I mean, Rascal even switches over to Baptiste.
Well, and what's crazy is that they play two different styles of Brig too. Haskell plays definitely defensive, and Rascal, as you saw, being the first death in a lot of the team fights on Sunday, Rascal is super aggro.
Yeah, well, that's the entire Shock team. That's the one team you're not going to out aggro Shock. Even the Titans, you're not out aggroing the Shock.
I would agree with that on their Zarya play, but I think Super actually plays pretty dang defensive compared to like Bumper.
Well, he has to because his Zarya teammates playing in front of the Reinhardt shield half the time.
Usually, okay, he was doing that pretty bad in the World Cup, but you got to give Sinatraa props. He really has turned into a lot more of a team player.
Sinatraa right now is my MVP of the league.
Absolutely.
I think, and no one has turned around from season 1 to season 2, I think, more than Sinatraa. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing to say, but I'm proud of him.
He was almost like a laughing stock before season 2, where it's just like, oh, what is Sinatraa gonna do, Mr. 150K?
Yeah, that bench is pretty expensive.
For shit.
And he didn't get drafted in any fantasy leagues, and he was the fantasy star. Like, I will flat out say this: the only reason I'm doing as well as I am is because I was smart enough to pick Sinatraa up in basically every league I could.
Yeah, I was just completely wrong. I was completely wrong about Sinatraa, and I mean, props to him. He really, it's just cool to see a young player mature as much as he has.
Right.
And he seems like much less of a D-bag than last season.
The shocking
for sure.
That's because he's not teabagging.
Yeah. Well, no. He's still teabagging.
It's not as frequently though.
Yeah.
We call that tactical crouching.
Yeah. He was a giant D-bag last year.
You listen to the comms though, or you hear like the stuff going on with that team. He comes across like so much more of a team leader now. Like he's really someone who's like focused, who's like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna play well. He's the guy who puts the team on his back, and it's just cool to. You go.
I was just going to say, we do have a little bit of other Shock news. So before their run into playoffs, they kind of decided to let go of their contenders team. So, no longer have an affiliate team. So they disbanded Energy Esports. So you had a ton of players that basically entered free agency, one of which was actually picked up here within the last couple of days. So, we got to keep it moving along just a little bit. So, Ed, we got a new sign-in for Mayhem outside of, the trade deal. So, who's the newest addition to that roster?
All right, the newest addition to the roster is, and I might say this wrong, is Byron. He is a South Korean support player that was on Energy or San Francisco Shock's contenders team, mainly a Zenyatta and Moira type player. They made this signing for the Mayhem, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, it's purely for depth, I think, at this point, because Hagapen is definitely somebody that a lot of teams and a lot of people see a fairly bright future for. Like, he was not bad on that team. He was not one of the weak points of that team. His Zenyatta play was pretty good, actually, at times. So I think Byron's going to come in as more of a backup support,
right?
And not really take over for Hagapen, which I'm totally fine with, because now they just need to get another off-tank main support, maybe a DPS.
As a Hagapen starter, it definitely freaked me out when I saw.
By the way, you're a Hagapen starter because my roster was so stacked, I had to drop him.
I'm not complaining. I'll take it.
So yes, this is a flex support player. Hakopen has been, I mean, really like looking back at season 1 players, this is another player that's really improved over the course of time, just not to the same extent that we have seen with a player like Sinatra. But this signing in particular was eyebrow raising for me, especially because going back to his stint in the Path to Pro scene, at one point he was on Blossom, and going into the Contender season in 2018, before the season even started, he was actually released by the team due to the fact that he was a booster. Now, of course, we've had this discussion time and time again on our different Overwatch League shows. Boosting is, taken very seriously in Korea. We've seen a lot of, suspensions and things coming from that side. But
it's now jail time, though, right?
Yeah.
In Korea?
Yeah, for the newer charges, yeah. But there's, been a lot of talk recently about Byron potentially being 2 people. So, there's this red flag aspect to the sign-in, and I don't want to read too much into that, but this is someone that does have a little bit of a troubled past, and I don't necessarily think that's a tension that you're going to want to have on your organization, especially in the position that the Mayhem are in, having, one of the worst records in the Overwatch League this season so far.
Well, we know how genius of a scouter Bare Hands is, so I'm sure he did all of his research for this. But I don't know. It's even then, signing a flex support definitely didn't seem like the first move that the Mayhem would make, let alone announce even. It feels like there's so many more needs that are at least on the board that you should take care of first.
Mm-hmm.
I would say one thing that we're starting to see from teams more and more is they're realizing the need for good quality backup players. Before this stage, before this season, I mean, a lot of teams were not really truly thinking of backup players.
Really, though? I don't know if I agree with that. I would say it's going the opposite way. I would say the best teams are sticking with one roster, which is not what I foresaw when the league started, but that seems to be what works the best.
I mean, on certain teams, yes, but they still sub-insure for Void, depending on the map situation. The whole Seoul Dynasty, thank God they had backups, because otherwise who knows what place they'd be in, because they got rid of half their team.
17th.
17, just above the Justice Mayhem, then Outlaws. I can't list Outlaws anything but last in that list. I mean, look at the Outlaws. They've basically played everything, including the kitchen sink. Which is probably the best main support they have, is a kitchen sink.
We just have to leave the Outlaws alone at the moment until they get bought
by Immortals.
They are gonna be just sitting there
and move to Chicago.
Bought and sold. Yep.
I do not want them in Chicago. That would be the worst potential thing to happen.
I do just
come to Chicago. And
I want it so bad. It would be. But I mean, they would probably rebrand. They would rebrand to something that makes more sense for Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
While we're talking about backups, though, what do you guys think about Trill getting signed by the Dallas Fuel? Because again, OGE is someone that you wouldn't. OGE, you saw it at the Fuel homestand. He is the main player for that team. He is.
Didn't we talk about this last week, though?
Did we? I don't know. Either way, I don't remember, but it's the kind of thing where, what do you do with backups? I think are just so important. You need to have somebody to prevent them from getting scooped up and sent to another team.
Right. I feel like just like Labasco said on Push the Point, I feel like Fuel was scared that they were going to lose him to another team, and they just pulled him up because they wanted to get more value from him. That's all I can think, because I don't see him playing over OGE after OGE was the most chanted name in the auditorium at the home game. I mean, Zachary was chanted, ACAM was chanted, but I mean OGE was over and over again chanted constantly. So I can't see that happening. but I could see them just pulling him up because
Mhm.
I feel like he could start for at least half of the league at the moment.
Yeah, and you can go ahead. I'll finish.
I
up
was
after.
gonna say, like, Trill. The thing is personally, and without knowing anything behind the scenes, because obviously no one would trust me with any behind the scenes information. Trill made the most sense as a signing for the Valiant.
Yeah.
I feel once he got signed to the Fuel and taken off the market of being able to be signed by the Valiant, I think that's when they decided to make this trade, because Trill would have been a perfect signing for the Valiant, and then they could have traded Fate possibly for an upgrade somewhere else, like a more significant upgrade somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's instead of going with like a lower tier main tank and a DPS player, they could have just gone pure, hey, let's get a really good DPS player out of this, or let's get a really good flex support, or something of that nature. And I think Dallas knew this and they didn't want to lose it, because you never know, somebody could come, like the Justice could come in and offer the Dallas Fuel a bunch of money that they can't resist for OGE.
I wonder if the Valiant was shopping Trill. Dallas picks him up, and then the Valiant's forced to go with the Mayhem trade, because Trill will be, what is the second Australian in the league now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, after Color Hex. Oh
no, Color Hex is a Kiwi.
Custa.
Oh, Custa.
Yeah, Custa's Australian. Color Hex is a Kiwi.
The Valiant did too for a while.
That is also true. But in regards to Trill, this is a player that is from Australia, which you guys didn't note. But what you guys didn't mention is the fact that this is a player that has been competing at Contenders, whether it's in Contenders Australia or Contenders North America. So he's been on like Blank Esports, Sydney Drop Bears, which has by and large been one of the best Australian Overwatch teams to, winning the championship with Team Envy here in the last season. And he's done that all from Australia, playing on absolutely absurd pings. And now he's finally in the process of moving to LA. So for him to have that much of a standout on these teams, on that main tank position, playing with that ping at such a huge disadvantage, really speaks to the player that he is. Now, that being said...
Now, does he play mostly Ryan, though?
It's a lot of Ryan and Winston.
Yeah.
I will tell you, like, Ryan play, I do just fine on EU with 300 ping.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've played in Masters over there with buddies. Like, it's not as bad with Ryan. I could see it being really bad with, like, with
Winston.
Yeah, I haven't really seen him on Orisa, but he does play Ryan, Winston, and Wrecking Ball for sure.
The point that you made, Bob, as far as maybe Valiant really trying to shop, it makes sense as well. That would make sense as far as why Envy sent him up so early, because they're still going into the Atlantic Showdown.
And that's what makes it. I forgot to mention that. That's what makes it weird.
Because
I mean, this whole showdown is kind of a crap show now.
Yeah, it doesn't have Runaway, so who really cares?
It doesn't have Runaway. Wasn't Mayhem Academy going to?
I'd have to look at the bracket.
I think. Oh, it was Atlanta, because I'm like, if Mayhem Academy's going, they were really good. I'm like, they just lost their main DPS and their main tank. You're like, well, sucks to be you, Mayhem Academy. Like,
as far as Western main tanks, who are the other options besides? Well, Trill, I guess you could call Australia Western, but besides Trill, Fact Fiction, have we heard about Beast Halo recently? I haven't heard any tabs about as far as him.
He's in Open Division.
Yeah, Beast Halo, if you want to go that route. There's not necessarily a lot of prime Western main tanks, so as soon as Trill's off the table, I could definitely see Fact being the next pickup, unless they wanted to go the Clone Man route, which that's our push the point theory, is Clone Man is going to be the sub for Team Envy.
Dude, that was actually a pretty good hot take, dude. I heard that and I was like, oh yeah, that's really a good hot take right there.
Yeah, Beast Halo though, and if you've listened to any Heroes Never, me and Totem are rather large Beast Halo fans. I feel he needs to be called up to whatever. It needs to be on some sort of team. But yeah, no, that's a good pick. I honestly didn't think of that of Clone Man because, I mean, is there a conflict of interest there?
Well, okay, like Ramses, go ahead and explain why. Like, I don't know if you watch a
So,
lot of Jane's streams
This
and
is
stuff.
Labasco's take. So shout out to Labasco for this one. I did not.
Or
come up-
you're throwing him under the bus for
No,
us
no.
I
destroying this.
didn't even
No.
think of this either, and I hung out with Clone and Jade like during opening week and like knew the situation, but I didn't even think about it.
So, Clone Man lives with Jane. So the only actual tie here is that Clone Man lives with a coach for the Dallas Fuel, who is Team Envy's parent organization. So it wouldn't make the transition crazy hard. You would have to consider that Clone Man, at least currently, unless something else changes, Clone Man does play for Meta Sky Foxes.
But they're out. But they're
They're
out
out.
of it.
He
You know
could-
what I mean?
He could play for Team Envy. So that would be the connection, that he lives with Jane. He already is in NA. Realistically, the transfer over wouldn't be that hard unless Meta Sky Foxes really would
Yeah,
have
dude.
a gripe about it for
Labasco
it.
blew my mind with that because I was like, why did I think of that?
Like, if you watch Jane's stream, or if you watch Clone Man stream, Clone Man will be playing, and then Jane will just run in his room and just start yelling at him for feeding, and starts just trying to like coach him on stream. So it's an option. That we still don't know who's gonna actually play a main tank for Team Envy, but
Taimu.
I like it. I like it. Taibu, you're gonna have to stop playing World of Warcraft and come back over to Overwatch because that's what he's been doing. By the way,
I mean, he's not
couldn't
going to
use that interview.
I mean, Raucus has done similar things, at least according to his Twitter. So at least
Wait,
makes
so
some
is
sense.
Ruckus playing World of Warcraft while on the main stage? Because that's what it looks like.
It would explain. It
Yeah,
would explain why
I'm
he
not-
walks into random stage hazards for no reason.
There you
I'm
go.
a Raucus fan, not a fan of his play as of late.
Bob, you and I both.
I mean, honestly, you should just pay me my skin now.
You know what? I still have those 100 coins. I probably should just hold on to them and just reset them back
you
to
bet me he was a top 10 Zenyatta, and right now he's 23rd.
We have 20. We have 10 more weeks. 10 more weeks of play.
So 1 in 9 on the high end.
He'll sneak back in like just under 10, and
He's gonna jump up 15 spots in 10 weeks as the off sport.
look. You want me to defend Houston all the time? This is the one time I'm doing it. All right, Raucus is doing it. Raucus is gonna make it to spot number 10.
Double your bet then.
No, I don't have that kind of faith.
So you're not going to double down on that, but will you double down on a potential 2-2-2 shift in the Overwatch
Nice
League?
segue.
So this has been something that's been rumored, and I know Slasher has been talking about it, and this might be coming live for Stage 3 in the Overwatch League. Now, of course, this is not official, this is part of the rumor mill, but it looks like they are planning on implementing 2-2-2 in the Overwatch League before it will come to live servers in Overwatch. Now, looking back, guys, I think we can all agree with the 3-3 meta. You know, we have the top two teams, you have the Shock and the Titans, and if we enter Stage 3 with the same meta, chances are we're gonna get the same stage finals for, the third straight stage in a row. But do you guys feel like the viewership can still maintain if we continue to see 3-3 as a primary focus?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, honestly, viewership's going a lot better than I thought it would go with the GOATS meta, but like, I was not a fan of 2-2-2 when it was first talked about. Like, I slowly changed it. I pitched it to Nate opening week. I pitched a 1-1-1-3, but that was before seeing all this. That was just right after the first week of games, and it was before seeing all the Sombra play. So you go to a 1-1-1-3, and all of a sudden you just have Sombra goats on every single team. So it doesn't really work. So I've slowly become a huge 222 supporter, and I think that it is going to be amazing for the game. I really have no doubt that it's coming. Just talking to a lot of different people around the league, involved in the league, I really think it's coming. And I think the only reason it's not coming to the game right off the bat is because, one, they've probably been working on it for a while, and it's going to be hard to implement. Plus, you kind of have to give the player base some time to digest the fact that there's an MMR reset coming. We're going to have 3 different SRs per account. Like, there's going to be a whole lot of Masters players that play 10 placement games a season and call themselves Masters that are going to be really pissed that they have to work back up to it. And so for the majority of the game, I think it's going to be a good thing, but I think the Overwatch League will have a definite uptick when it hits, because people, I mean, just think about the players we have not gotten to see. We've not gotten to see Dinkser. We've not gotten to see Striker. We've not gotten to see I'm blanking on his name. We've not gotten to see Flower. We've not gotten to see Pine.
Very limited.
Like a second. We've not gotten to see as Spider would say by Obi. Like, we haven't gotten to see SBB. Like, we haven't got to see all of these awesome players. Architect. I mean, all of these different players. EQO on a real character. I mean, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge, and it's like some of the teams are going to definitely suffer. Unfortunately, I think my boys in blue, the Dallas Fuel, leveled down with this change.
Now, I do want to chime in really quick. Looking at Twitch chat, Saranex says, you can't punish Shock into Titans for stomping on 3-3. Just get good. Okay, now here's the thing. Regardless of who this is going to benefit, or, not benefit as much, it's basically what's best for the league as a whole. And, you look at a lot of the community, and a lot of people really do not enjoy the 3-3. Not to mention the fact that, when you're playing on ladder, that sort of meta isn't necessarily the games that we are going to be seeing when we are playing Overwatch, because it's primarily just in certain, SR ranks, or just not seen it all in others, and we have seen the meta shifting ever since that major balance patch, so 3-3, for all accounts and purposes, is already kind of like at the wayside at this point, outside of the Overwatch League, and you want something to parallel what's happening within the Overwatch League and the game itself.
Question, I know I saw the footage, I know your Overwatch talked about it, but where did, what interview did Slasher bring this information up?
It was a podcast. I forget.
They played the video of him saying it, but I don't remember.
Actually, I can put the link in chat if I have, if I've got.
Yeah, you're a mod. You should have it.
All right.
Because I was curious, because that way we can look at it like. That we can actually look at the link. The same evidence that your Overwatch video used was and I don't know if Frito did it, but shout out to Frito for that. Was they were talking about how it was actually Monty being nice to the Outlaws was used as evidence, because it was something as like links are being like.
Yeah, Monty. Like yeah, Linkser tweeted out, "I just really miss playing" or something like that. Monty said, "Don't worry. You're gonna enjoy next stage," or something to that.
Don't worry,
line.
It'll be better next stage.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Now, with that being said, obviously we could see some familiar faces kind of resurface, which we kind of already touched up on. And something I want to point out is, just because we are shifting to a 2-2-2 meta doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to have variants just like what we saw with the 3-3, because we did see, sometimes D.Va getting subbed out, whether it's for Mei at times, or running Sombra, or running more dive-heavy tanks. There are a lot of variations that we could see in the 2-2-2 meta, and if you want recent proof of that, you could take a look at Contenders Korea, which just wrapped up here within the last week, which unfortunately our boys of Runaway did not make it to the finals. They did not advance to the showdown, so it feels feels bad, man, on that front. It was not a good weekend for Runaway as a whole, but we did see a team in Element Mystic who did not drop a single map in all of the playoffs, which is probably never going to be duplicated, and they ran a lot of 2-2-2. Now, with their comp, they were running Reinhardt Zarya, with a DPS of Sombra and Doomfist, with a support line duo of Anna and Lucio. So if you want, maybe a preview of something that could be to come, I highly recommend you guys go back and just watch Element Mystic shut everyone out, essentially, here in the last week of the playoffs for Contenders Korea.
Yeah, those were good games. F's in the chat for anybody just who is a Runaway fan in general this weekend, because it's hard to see both the Titans and Runaway just both fall that little bit short
At the same time.
at the same time.
It was a sad weekend.
As far as you go.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, just thinking about like who really benefits and who really loses out. Who do you guys think actually, like, of course we think about who would do really well with a 2-2-2. Teams like Gladiators, teams like Philadelphia. Who suffers the most if 2-2-2 gets enforced?
Dude, I think Dallas suffers a ton because, like, they've basically built themselves off of teamwork, and they actually have a pretty good GOATS lineup. But go to DPS, and I'm not so sure. Like, we lost our DPS god in effect, so I don't know. But I do think Houston gets a huge level up. I mean, Linkser will just accidentally win you some games if he's playing. So I think those are two that I think of as leveling up and leveling down. Those are my two.
I think for level up, I think Atlanta definitely levels up. Just in the fact that you don't have to rely on Baby Bay as a Zarya for the entire time. He's somebody who
But
at
I
least...
mean, he's a really good Zarya. He was Zarya before he played DPS.
But he throws away less grabs if he's not playing Zarya. Like, he wastes less ults is what I'm trying to say. I would say, like, his hit scan is pretty good still. We saw the Shock put him in a couple of times during the end of last season where he played pretty well.
Farah is really good too.
Oh, Urster's Farah and Urster's Junkrat are both so good.
Yeah,
I would say though, I think the big fall would be Shanghai. We were talking about this a little bit earlier.
I think that'd be true for all of the Chinese teams, because primarily they have been the ones running the triple DPS compositions, at least so far this season.
You go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, my big fall was gonna be the Chengdu Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Forcing them to run 2 tanks is something that is out of the norm for them. Like, that is, you're running Hammond, but they're usually running triple DPS to support and Hammond. Like, I think that's a massive fault. The one team, and I'm gonna 100% disagree with Bob, that I think actually is, I know, shocking. I disagree with Bob on something.
No way.
My biggest gain is actually the Dallas Fuel. Here's my reasoning. They got rid of, we talked about this when they got rid of RCK and they got Note. Is we talked about if Dallas knew that there was going to be a force 2-2-2, this was a smart move for Dallas to get rid of RCK and get Note, because you're getting that pure.
True.
You're getting the better off tank in Note versus RCK. So take away RCK and Note's flexibility to Sombra in this 2-2-2. Note's far and away better. So you have that. Zach out of Brick Jail, and I'm a big fan of Zachary. I think he just hasn't been able to shine because.
When did you become a big fan of Zachary?
Since he was on FU?
Dude, you talked smack on Zachary so hard.
I talk smack on everyone.
Yeah.
I don't like attack. You can't have
but
that.
Like, I think Zachary will do. I mean, Zachary's going to do much better not in Brick Jail.
Oh, he's going to level up from
Yeah,
Disney.
and
Just
you
talking
have-
to him at the Dallas home game, he was on cloud nine, being able to play Hanzo for like just a second.
Mhm.
Like,
honestly,
I mean, it's like he will definitely level up. But AKM, man, I'm a little
he's the weak
worried.
point.
Mhm.
I'm a-
AKM is the weak point on this team.
But he's the team leader now, so like, if
But I
he
think they're
can't
gonna
perform
level
on
up.
like, I mean, if Soldier comes back in the meta, you all are fucked. But sorry, I didn't mean to cuss. Sorry,
It's fine.
Totem. Yeah,
Look at him go.
Yeah, he marked down. He's
But-
like, Bob said the F word.
I didn't mark anything
But
down.
like, but yeah, like if like Soldier's in meta, like you better watch out. Dallas Fuel coming. But I don't think Soldier's gonna be in the meta in the 2-2.
Now,
I mean, that's the thing is we don't know.
right. I will say though, like if we are moving to 2-2-2, and you know some of the off tanks have been in a position where they are being the vocal leaders, like how is that going to switch once they are not as in your face and they're playing more ranged DPS as opposed to being
Oh,
kind of
that's
at
a
the
good
forefront?
point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Zarya could be a team leader, but maybe a soldier, a tracer,
Backline DPS
a
can't
widow
really do
can't.
that.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause-
so they're gonna have to. And I mean, I think Unco and Closure are a top 5 duo support team in the league. So I think they're gonna excel. And then you have OGE and Note on the main tanks and off tank. That's a very good tank line. The weak point is their DPS line, but Zachary's going to level up. AKM's going to level down. So I think the Fuel might actually move up and start to push almost the Gladiators.
Mhm.
Like move into that 4th, 5th spot in the league for record. And I think it's going to be great for them.
At the
So-
very least, I think they'll hold steady.
I
They're going to
think,
still
like-
be in the same area. They're
hold,
not going
hold setting at the middle of the pack.
Yeah, you talked
Well-
about the Gladiators. The Gladiators are gonna level up big time.
Yeah, but the question is, can they level up in the playoffs since they still haven't taken a playoff game?
Yeah, but I mean, like, just think, K, gonna be playing some. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're gonna be good. Decay's.
I mean, Decay's played good on Genji against goats, especially on like Anubis' second point. Like,
I think
Decay's gonna be amazing.
the big question is gonna be how do you guys see the top 2 teams? How are they gonna fit into 2-2-2? How are
Okay.
the Titans and the Shock gonna be?
I'm gonna leave this up to Ed and Totem because I think you guys are the runaway experts. I literally don't know what they play like with DPS.
To be honest, looking at both of these teams, I'm not concerned if there's a meta shift going to 2-2-2. Because for one, you have the Shock, who we know how much flexibility this team has. They have top players at basically each role, so you're not going to be budged too much there. And then even predating before the whole 3-3 meta, Runaway was one of the best dive teams in the world. Now, they do have the flexibility. We have seen them play a lot of McCree. Protect and McCree comps are probably going to be one of the secondary variations that we are going to see in the perceived 2-2-2 meta. Or, we'll probably see a lot of straight dives. So, no matter which way the coin lands, I feel like if there is going to be any sort of fall off, it's going to be so minuscule, but it's going to be more about that gap between the top 2 and the rest of the league basically being a little bit more narrow. So hopefully it's just an even kill across the whole board as opposed to, just impacting a couple of teams here and there.
Yeah, I would say the only way that the Titans and the Shock really fall is if for some reason Diva does not make the 2-2-2 meta as the off tank.
Oh, she's gonna make the 2-2.
If she's going to, but like I'm saying, if for some reason like it's a Roadhog,
If
or
she gets
something
nerfed,
like that.
she won't make it, but she's gonna be in the majority of the games going
If
forward.
she's not, that could hurt them because like that is a definite strength of both these teams. When you look at the top 3-4 Diva players in the Overwatch League, Choyobin, Janu are 100% in the talk for top 3-4.
No, the top 2 is definitely Fury in Space still.
Not
As-
really.
top
If
four?
you're going to a 2-2-2, I'm
But right
I'm
now
talking
in
specifically
Goats-
2-2-2.
If you're
In
talking
goats, like diva play is completely different from like
Yeah.
dive to.
so if they switch to a Roadhog as being the main off tank, or
Or the main tank if you're bumper.
yeah,
Roadhog's only
Is Hanzo
coming
a main
in
tank now that I think
as
about it?
the off tank if they're going up against a bunker and they need shield break.
Mhm.
yeah. So like if they switch that, I could see them falling. But that's the only way I see them falling because both DPS lines are so good. I mean, you look at the Titans DPS line, probably their number 2 DPS player isn't actually even playing
But
in Stitch.
we've Stitch. I love Stitch, but we've been talking about Sinatra a bunch. If 222 goes in, I don't think Sinatra starts.
If
I
they're
don't think
running Zarya in the 222 comps, I think it's a safe bet. If
But
we
do
run
you
away
think
from Zarya,
I don't even think Zarya is going to get played in a 222 till she gets. I mean, there's a lot of characters that aren't going to get played at all until they get reworked. Like Brig will be out.
Hmm.
Like unless you have like a crazy backline tracer, Brig's going to be out. I mean, a lot of characters are going to be completely out of the meta when this goes in. But I think they'll rework those characters and have the ability to properly rework them and balance them better with the 222 roll lock in play.
it's just a matter of how aggressive they are going to be to make the changes once they do implement the 222 though, because it might not be a thing that's going to happen right away. We're not going to see those changes in effect until probably the next stage, if we're being honest, since they're not going to implement that stuff in the middle of a stage or even before a stage playoffs.
The only thing, I don't think Sinatra not starting would be too much of a problem for the Shock because we see how big their roster is, and they have top tier players on all 4 of their DPS spots. The only, not even weakness, but the only question I would have is we know Fisher's Ryan play is really good. It's whether his Winston play is up to that same first place, second place standard.
Yeah.
But-
All right, I have a question. If you were to give one, and this is purely fantasy value, I'm not talking player value or anything like that, fantasy value. If we switch to 222, what player jumps up the most?
EQO.
Fantasy value-wise?
EQ, well.
I
Damn it! I wasn't here to say EQO.
I know Bob was going to say it too.
Yep,
I was gonna jump in
definitely gonna
first.
say it. Like EQO, we're gonna see some shit. I mean, it's gonna be good. I'm excited.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of people that come to mind. EQO, Hydration is in the same case because you look at Hydration as a Brig bot, and you can look at how Black Landers performed, and it's a rough go. There were so many times he got punished. Happy would be another one. A lot of that's gonna depend on like
Happy is
if
a
we're gonna
good
see like a
one.
lot of dive and Widow play. Like if we get to see the return of Widow duelist type maps, I would be all for it because that's really what we like
might
to see.
even get to see
But see,
Ash.
the
We
thing
might
is-
even get to see Ash.
Widowmakers, fantasy-wise, are not that good. Because yes, they get important kills, but
You're
they're
not
not
doing-
pumping out the damage. And
Yeah,
not,
they never get damage. Like it's very
fantasy-wise,
rare.
Widowmakers are.
But if they're mediocre Brig bots, then it's still a noticeable jump.
The fantasy
Yeah.
question I would have is, do main tanks actually receive any sort of jump and stab?
Yes,
Because then
Yeah,
that would
I think.
It's gonna be more. It just depends. If the meta goes more Winston, you're gonna see an uptick. If the meta goes more Ball, you're gonna see a downtick because Ball actually doesn't get a lot of stats. He does a lot of things that stats don't show.
Mm-hmm.
most important question: does Fisher actually start if we get to a 2-2-2 meta?
It's possible.
If Monkey comes back, I don't know how you can't play Fisher. I mean, he's so good, but we've seen so many teams not play Fisher because he's obviously toxic. Like there's
Yeah.
no other explanation for it.
Fisher, there's no denying he's toxic.
Trade him to Washington.
Or to Toronto?
Oh yeah, and GCB
Sayarnak.
Sayarnik in chat points out Gesture. Like, Gesture Monkey is amazing. His Rhine's been better in stage 2, but it's still not top tier Rhine.
I mean, if we're talking monkeys in stage 3,
Gooshway.
yeah, exactly.
Gooshway.
Nobody's
Out-
mentioned the
Who
best monkey of all time.
outclassed
I-
Gesture, mind
I
you.
was gonna mention Spark as leveling up if we go to a 2-2-2 also.
Yeah, I mean, if you get Godsby and Crystal in there full time, I think you're kind of good there. You're
Well,
good
that-
on the DPS line.
Cosby Crystal was half of the reason they got ranked so highly during the offseason.
Yeah, exactly. And they have a team built for 2-2-2. They do not have a 3-3 team.
Now the big question though is how does the 2-2-2 affect fantasy specifically?
I mean, you're looking at your Zarya. Like, the number 1 point getters are Zarya players right now.
Now that Zen's not as popular.
Exactly. Like, is Zarya then are basically the 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
Your top-notch Zarya players, like, people like Sinatra, people like Suman Su, like, those are 2 of the top probably 3-4 Zarya players fantasy-wise in the league. Their stock plummets because you don't know if they're going to play. Like, Suman Su, I don't think he starts over Stitch in a 2-2-2 meta.
Not if he's
And,
only
like,
playing hit scan.
Does Nene lose his starting spot if we go into a
It's
2-2-2? Does
possible.
NYXL just not even play Nene? Like, I don't know much about Nene before he came into the league, so I don't know what other
he was a
DPS he really
tank
plays
before
well.
Before he became a DPS player with XL2
XL2.
Academy.
And it is worth mentioning too, like with teams like the Shock and NYXL, and you know even now with the Valiant with their recent roster additions, there is a lot of hero overlap with these DPS players. So in those situations, you're gonna have a player or two on those lineups that are either only going to be coming in for throw maps or split in time, or just not coming in at all. So it's really going to depend on what sort of variance we are going to see in a 2-2-2 meta, because if Ryan Zarya isn't going to be the go-to with that like quasi-dive Sombra Doomfist combo, then chances are like the DPS players that have been playing Zarya, you're going to see a lot of fall off in their fantasy value unless they are playing something that is more dive centric. But like if we're going to like hit scan primarily, the Widowmaker players are basically kind of probably going to be middling of the pack, kind of like what we're currently seeing with the main tank position, I would say.
Yeah, basically you could think Zarya players currently, for the most part, are going to go down. Brig players currently, for the most part, are going to go up. Could we all agree with that?
Yeah, in most cases, I think certain team that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Shock
Definitely.
would be one. Like Rascal, I could see being benched. For someone like Striker.
Rascal's
Striker-
definitely benched.
Yeah, like you bring in Striker, who I guess has been a phenomenal Widowmaker recently. You bring in Striker as the Widowmaker player, and if you're running something like you could put Sinatra on Tracer, or do some kind of bring in Architect. But, like,
Architect. It's going to be Architect and Striker. I mean,
It
unless
could be.
Sinatra has just really cemented himself as a leader on the team. I mean, in Krusty, we trust.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Rascal's
the one
Genji, though.
person who is not going to be relevant unless he gets traded, Surefour.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he's just not going to start over Decay. He only got brought in when they tried to run triple DPS. He's not going to replace Decay or Hydration. So I think Surefour is someone who, unless he gets traded, is seeing better days at this point.
Really quick, if we go into a 2-2-2, do we think it becomes strictly projectile and a hit scan DPS, or do we think it goes more back to a mixed format? Because there's teams like Boston, Dallas is the other example, but reverse, where they only have 2 of the same kind. Dallas
Mhm.
normally fields 2 hit scans, Boston fields 2 projectiles. Which that was one of the complaints we had with Boston at the beginning, was like they don't have a hit scan DPS. Who's going to play? I mean, granted, Widow's kind of her own class at this point for a lot of teams, but still, I wonder. It just makes you wonder how people are going to float if we get back to a more even DPS spread.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like a lot of that is going to be map dependent, so that's not really going to change too much in regards to some of the variants that we are seeing. It's weird though. Like, we've been in instances where like teams just like stock up on like 5 supports. Like if you're Boston last season, like that was kind of random. Or even the Shock having only hit scan DPS, but that didn't stop them from being pretty dominant in this meta. I just want to see in a 2-2-2 meta things just not just be like one specific combination of 6 heroes and then just one variant. I want to see at least 4 to 6 different options mixed into it.
Unfortunately, I think, especially with how quick this change is going to be coming, unfortunately, I think it's just going to revert back to dive, at least for the start of Stage 3, because teams have no clue what to do. And Overwatch is going, like, they're going to be in a whole new world now with being able to properly balance their game. And so it's definitely going to be a little rocky at the start. But all in all, it's better for us. It's better for the league. It's better for everyone going forward. But it's definitely, I think it's going to be dive.
Dive, maybe double sniper. I know double sniper was.
Should have said that in chat.
Oh, I know.
Well, we'll see.
Do it, Bob.
If Junkertown,
A whole new world. A new fantastic 2-2-2. Sorry.
Okay, so side note, they did not release that song from Aladdin today.
No, but I saw the one. Prince Ali,
Prince Ali, fabulous he, Alibaba. Strongest 10 mighty men, as you can see.
Just play it on one.
A 1,000 baskets with swords. Sorry,
Perfect.
I'll
I will
my bad.
quickly say, just play it on 1.25 speed, and then go back and listen to it. But outside of that, all of us are really looking forward to the 2-2-2 meta. It's gonna keep things fresh, even if we are just gonna go back to dive. But how long into Stage 3, if we do see the meta shift, do you feel like people are going to complain about the meta? Because what's going to happen. It happens every time, no matter what that meta is, or how entertaining that meta can be.
Yep, yeah, competitive red is going to be great. Dives back, man.
Wait, wait, are we talking about how the fans say it, or the cesspool known as Reddit will say it?
Both?
Because I think fans actually will enjoy having dive meta because you have more chances for actual switching up different characters, whereas the cesspool Reddit will just hate everything no matter what.
So day one.
Okay, so I talked to Semler in depth about this opening week, and he thought that that the GOATS meta was extremely hard to cast. He's like, oh, they're throwing in 3 ults. Oh, nobody died. Okay. And he was just like, the average viewer can see a headshot from Widow, or see, basically the DPS, the reason they followed them the majority of the time on the broadcast last year was because it's something that the layman can understand easy. GOATS is hard to understand, and with it going on ABC and ESPN and everything else, the best bet is to have something that people can understand and easily see and know what they're looking at. So that's kind of forgot where I was going with that point, but either way, I think that it will just make a better viewing experience.
Yeah, so basically what Bob is saying is it's just easier to take in, and it's easier to realize what is going on when everything's just not so chaotic, because everything is kind of like in a death ball where it's literally just 12 people in a clump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Goats is actually easier to play, at least in my opinion. In the Goats meta, I've made it to Masters. Never made it to Masters before. Like, so it was easier to play, but definitely more complex to understand.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the non-Goats meta, I think people need to understand more. And this is going to rely more on the production value of the Overwatch League. You're going to miss more plays. Mm-hmm. You're going to miss more big moments in a non-Goats meta because they can't follow the exact person who's going to pull off the exact awesome play every single time. They're going to be following someone, and then the opponent Widowmaker is going to pop off.
Yeah,
but it'll make buying that extra package, what's it called, so that you could watch anybody's point of
the all access
view.
pass.
But even
Yeah,
then,
it'll make that but it'll make that more worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it puts more pressure on the people who decide what replays they show. Replays are going to become a much bigger thing.
Highlights will be a much bigger thing as well.
Non-Goats meta.
well, I have complete faith in those those guys. I met them also at opening weekend. I got to take a tour backstage, and those guys are on top of it. Like, they're literally like it reminded me of me and my team talking and calling out. Like, they're literally calling out, Sinatra going over here. Someone check him out. And then he'd be like, yes, move to Sinatra. And they're like literally making calls throughout it. And I mean, they've gotten really good. I mean, if they could catch Defran jumping over the wall to grab on Hollywood, I have faith that they will be able to handle this.
Yeah, the only thing about that, though, Bob, is the fact that they noticed something was off because of how long it takes to actually set up that play. So they have more of a window to actually catch something happening in that sort of situation. But that being said, like, the broadcasting experience this year has been, pretty
phenomenal.
good across the board. And I have to say, like, regardless of whatever sort of, like, movements we saw with the broadcast crew in between the first season going into the second season, it's definitely surpassed my expectations that I had. Because, going into the season, I didn't necessarily set the bar too high for this new team that was coming in, and, they've caught a lot of good moments.
Well, and they do the whole thing now where, we used to just have a timer that's set on the screen, and that sucked. Now we have a timer with replays, and that's awesome. You know what I mean? And we're getting the tweets in now, too. Hopefully those don't stop because of what we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They just randomly show a picture of Charles Manson and be like, all right, how did you not get that? I mean, the one character I'm worried about the most as far as viewership comes with is Widowmaker. Because Widowmaker, you could follow the entire time. And you could not see anything, but you could easily miss 2 headshots in a row before they switch over. And then Widowmaker goes back to being useless as part of viewership. So Widowmaker is something I think that could really be an issue as far as like seeing things. So as much as I love seeing headshots as much as the next, Widowmaker highlights I think are best used for just that, highlights. You show clips of the Widowmaker headshots, but you don't follow Widowmaker the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one hero that I'm worried about.
You can see that too, because a lot of the times, when you're just watching Widow, you feel like you have tunnel vision, since you only have like one sight line, and then everything's at times happening around you at that point.
Well, I mean, tunnel vision is something that all of us suffer from, pros and casuals alike. We all have to fight tunnel vision. It's Like talking to coaches on teams, like that's one of the biggest things they have to fight is just having players being open to calls when they're tunnel vision because their ears shut off.
Right. So is there anything else anyone wants to touch up on before we wrap up the show for tonight? Because I know we are running longer than usual, but we've had a lot of healthy conversations here tonight, a lot of more freeform stuff.
Been like my favorite episode ever. Actually, though, Totem, we're pretty freeform on this podcast, to be quite honest. Because you have so many strong personalities. Ed?
Is this MCU related?
Yep.
Okay.
I had an actual Overwatch thing.
I'm gonna go. All right, say your Overwatch.
So we already complained about how like a lot of people who are on the All-Star rosters are questionable choices, I guess, if you're going just based off a fan vote.
Players who aren't actually playing.
Look, guys, just get used. It's a popularity contest.
Oh,
this is not something that says they're the best players.
But you're
It's
telling me
popularity.
You're telling me Saya player is popular enough to make the Atlantic Division All-Star team?
It is when you have to have a representative for every team.
He is.
You need a representative for every team.
And that's the thing, is that like it's a that was my first gripe.
But he wasn't one of the starters picked though, right?
No, he's a reserve.
You need Saya player in the Widowmaker.
Here's what I'm
the
saying,
reserves were all picked by the league in some way.
Here's my thing though. The jerseys for All-Stars are made by Into the AM, the company who did last year's jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
So the quality's a lot better. And it's just minor.
I don't know, dude. My quality of my custom jersey is really good.
So I have two questions, Bob. How many times have you washed it?
You don't wash jerseys. You dry clean jerseys. You don't ever put a jersey in the washer. Like my Chiefs jersey is a $220 jersey. I take that to the fucking dry cleaner. Damn it. Sorry, Totem. I take that to the dry cleaner. I don't put that in a machine that spins around. Like
have
just
the
don't
numbers
do that.
have the numbers started peeling yet? That's my question.
Can we get some F's in chat, please?
F's in the chat for Bob.
F's in the chat.
Bob's dropping the F's, if anything.
Oh no, he's going to get some jersey.
I was trying to find my jersey, but honestly, the best jersey that quality wise that I have is the one I got from the grand finals. I just bought one right there, a Fusion jersey, and that one, like the quality is really good. I don't know who made those,
Into
but
the
I
AM
think
makes those ones.
okay, because it's definitely different than my Harry Hook jersey that I bought from the Overwatch League site start of Stage 1.
That's what I'm saying, is that like the
Stage 1 though.
Oh, Stage 1, like last year's Stage 1 or this year's Stage 1?
Last year's Stage 1.
Okay.
I bought Harry Hook, and that jersey's kind of crap. But then the jersey that I got, like, it's a completely different. It's a different. What am I like?
Material.
Yeah, it's a different material completely. Like they feel completely different. And then the one I got this year is really good. The only complaint I have is that when I got it, some of the letters were kind of bent from being folded, but that definitely like worked itself out with the first wear. But yeah, don't ever guys. Pro tip: don't put your jerseys in the washer. That's like putting a suit in the washer. You're just going to ruin it. Don't do it.
My gripe is just that like the Into the AM jerseys have been much better quality than the Fanatics jerseys we've gotten so far. As far as I've seen, I mean, we complain about Reddit, but the fact that
we've seen a bunch of bad ones, but mine I can't complain.
Just it's the gripe of, hey, Into the AM jerseys died. Dallas Fuel exclusive merch died, so we could get the really crappy Fanatics merch. That's my gripe. I'm done.
All right, so getting back on track to Marvel related stuff.
All right. So here's my question, and the thing is we're far enough Endgame that if you haven't seen it and you're listening to this, you're an idiot.
Spoilers.
So here's your spoiler warning. Get out now.
Spoiler warning. So, okay. When Captain America, at the end of the movie, goes back to return all the Infinity Stones, okay? He goes back, does all that stuff. How does he get the Infinity Stone back into, I forgot her name, but Thor's girlfriend? Because they had to extract that from her. How does he go back and get it back into her?
I mean, there's two orifices.
I'm gonna be quite honest with you, Ed. I was really disappointed with Avengers, and I haven't told anybody that, but like I need to rewatch it once. But I was literally bored to tears through a lot of the movie. It was extremely slow, and I need to rewatch it. I wonder if I was just in a mood during it or something.
I'm assuming you were in a mood because this was.
I don't know. I just feel like I should have felt more, and I didn't.
So, like, all right.
I felt more from the two different segments they did on Overwatch this last week. The deaf kid made me cry. And the mom segment made me cry. Like, not like bawl, but like tears were definitely coming, my eyes were watery.
Okay, so back to my all-important MCU question. If you had to extract some form of liquid from her to get the stone, how do you put that liquid back into her? And how does that conversation go? Because she's never met Captain America. He just shows up on Asgard. Does he walk up to her and be like, listen, ma'am, I know you don't know me, but I need to inject this into you. Even though you think you have it still, but I actually took it out of you. I need to now inject you with it.
They spike the wine.
That's an easy thing. Just, hey, baby, how you doing?
But she was dating Thor at the time, who was there. Captain America just showed up and be like, I know you have a boyfriend that's in the other room and he's a demigod and he has a hammer that could destroy me that I will eventually pick up on my own.
Yeah, that's why he just goes, I'm worthy too.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'm worthy too. I'm going to inject you with this liquid. So, I mean, it's a
sounds like every drunk conversation at the bar with singles.
I want to see
at 2 a.m. last call.
I want to see a Captain America movie of him just going back and trying to put the Infinity Stones back to where they would need to be. And that needs to be like the main point right there. Be like, hey baby, let me inject you with this red liquid. It'll feel good.
That's not gonna work.
It works sometimes.
Like, don't use the word inject.
All right.
I mean, as opposed to taking it orally or anally, like.
He's got a point. Be like, all right, this is gonna hurt or it might not hurt. I don't know about your history, but bend over.
And with that, let's go ahead and wrap up the show. So, we got a number of different ways how you can help us out, and one of the best ways to do that is to show us some love over on iTunes, or your podcasting app of choice. I know it's been a little dry with the reviews as of late, but we do have additional Overwatch-related content on Overwatch Recall, which you can find on our website, and then every Sunday night we do the weekly recall, which recaps all of the episodes released from the Overwatch League, Path to Pro, Fantasy Overwatch League podcast. So if you want to find more info on that, either visit our website or follow Overwatch Recall on Twitter at OW Recall. Now, with that being said, we do have a couple of things coming up. One is happening this weekend, and we have one happening the following weekend. And as we are doing 2 Overwatch League podcasters panels for the mid-season break. So this is something that we did at the end of Stage 1, which we kept kind of small. We had like 8 people on, I think it was like 4 or 5 different podcasts on this one, but we've expanded, and we are hosting 2 panels. The first one is going to be this Saturday, that is May 18th, and then we'll have a second one on Sunday, May 26th.
Alpha panel, May 18th.
You mean the one I'm going to be on with you?
Feel.
I'm going to be on the show with the Houston Outlaws. This is going to be good.
But anyways, both of the panels will start at
I don't
7.
know, dude. Mel owns you.
I let her believe that. She
When is the
doesn't
panel going to
really.
start, Totem?
At 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, both on that Saturday and that Sunday. So if you want to know who's involved, podcast-wise, we have 11 different podcasts being represented. That includes the Bird Watchers, the Brover Watch, Casual OWL Fans, Heroes Never Die, High Noon, Omnic Lab, Omnic Weekly, Overtakes, Overwatch League Network, Overwatch League Recap, and Push the Points. And both of them will be streamed live on our channel, and I'm sure some of the others will be broadcasting from their respective podcast channels as well.
No tactical crouch?
No Reddit. Which, by the way, guys, just go upvote that and then downvote literally everyone that just keeps saying the same thing over and over
Dude,
again. It's hilarious.
Honestly, like, I can't believe you and I forgot it. Like, I really can't. Like, I mean, we would have loved to have John and Yiska or Volamel on the shows. Like literally, we just, like, I mean, it's hard. Like, everybody else wrote in
Mhm.
and wanted to
We
be
filled up almost immediately.
Yeah, involved in it, and we just, I mean, you guys are big. You guys are fine.
Yeah.
It-
Other
it-
question.
It's just one of those things. Yes. Ramses.
Totem, you're hosting the Alpha panel on
Mhm.
May 18th. Who's moderating the panel on May 26th?
I said that I would do it, but I also left it open to say if anybody else wanted to do it, they could. But
Yeah,
like,
I-
I will totally do it.
I've been talking to Spider about it, and he seems to be the one that is going to be doing that.
Spider's not a host.
See, it was funny because like it looked like the Bravo panel was going to be a lot more of like a raucous, just back and forth, because it was going to be you and Ed and Calder and Misfit and Labosco, and there's more people I'm forgetting. Oh, and then I think all of Omnic Weekly is on that one. It was going to be the more like raucous, like back and forth 4-hour show, and then you moved Ed back to our panel, which is now going to go from like a nice, like calm, like hour and a half show to be like 3 hours of me, Mel, and Ed just arguing back.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I feel
To
bad
be
for
quite
Totem.
honest, Totem, you should, like, I love Spider. I think he has great thoughts. He is an amazing analyst, but hosting is tough. And hosting 9 other people, I don't think that's like a good start for Spider's hosting work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is a conversation we could have after the podcast, though. But we'll get that sorted. But anyways, definitely check out the panels. They will both be available on podcatchers once they are recorded. But circling back, Ed, we have a number of ways how our listeners can get a hold of us. So why don't you let them know how they can do that?
All right, you can reach us through email at contact@owlnshow.com. You can reach us on Twitter at OWL by the numbers. We do have a website that is owlnshow.com. You can go on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. We are on Discord, so come join us over there, and that's discord.me/OWLnshow. We are streaming presently live on Twitch, and that's twitch.tv/OWLnshow. We are a Twitch affiliate, so come help support the show by subscribing to our channel and earn our network emoticon. Our podcast network does stream pretty regularly, so we have Overwatch League Networks, which airs Monday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific. We have this show, OWL by the Numbers, which airs Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific. And then we have the show me and Totem do Wednesday nights, Heroes Never Die at 5 p.m. Pacific. We're doing it a little early tomorrow due to the talent takedown. We want to at least catch a little bit. So we'll be starting a little bit early. I think we're 4 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. We do have host streams when available on Mondays at 5 p.m. Pacific and Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. And then we also do have a Patreon. So you can come help our network out even more by going over to patreon.com/OWL network. So we recently launched our network's page for those that want to support our Overwatch network even further. Tiers start at just $1 a month. You too can join the likes of our master and above patrons, including Blazing Bob.
I'm not only part of the podcast, I'm
You're
also a client.
Yes. So Blazing Bob, we have bro. So thanks again to all of you for our support. And then you can reach me personally. This is normally where I do my MCU question, but I did it earlier because it
Jump the
was
gun.
important. It was an important question, damn it. You can reach me personally on Twitter, and that's at Edanar Overwatch. That's EDANAR Overwatch. Ramses, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Twitter at Ramses_OW. You can find the other show I do with Labosco at PushPointPOD. And speaking of first attempts at hosting, I will be hosting these lovely gentlemen here on this upcoming week's episode of Push the Point, which
Can't wait. Can't wait.
oh dude, we talk about like somebody's first time hosting. I am just jumping deep into the lake as hard as I can right now.
You
Good
have
thing
to try and control me.
I have a hard out because I have to go to work after we record, so we have,
We
I have
don't
that
need
much.
you. I can keep talking.
Labosco can host in my stead. But these guys are going to be on next week's episode of Push the Point. I'm going to be on the panel for the Saturday. It's going to be great. So Ramses_W, PushPointPOD.
I like how you left off the important fact that I will be the judge, jury, and the executioner.
We'll see. I can handle that at this point.
Unfair.
I don't know if you could be the executioner when I could pick you up with one hand.
Oh, I mean, short people have their ways. Just if you need any proof of that, just look at Arya.
Very true. Very true. I
Bobby,
like
where
it.
can they find you?
You can find me and everything I do on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BO.
B.
He cut out, but they know how to spell Bob, but like it's
I'm
fine.
Bob. I have mic
It's
control.
like
Ooh.
BLAZZINBO. Alright, this is awkward.
Well, anyways, if you want to get a hold of me on Twitter, you can do so at Totally_Drunk_CTR. But with that being said, guys, I want to thank everyone again for hanging out with us tonight on OWL by the Numbers. This has been episode number 16. I've been your host, Totally Drunk, joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Edanar, Ramses, and Blazing Bob, and we look forward to seeing you back tomorrow for H&D. And if not, then definitely come check out the Podcasters panel this Saturday, guys. Have a good night.